This is sketchbook number 32. It's a Hahnemuhle watercolor sketchbook and I started it on November the 7th. This first page was from Liz Steele's watercolor on location course. We were just trying to simplify and look at values. At the time, I found it difficult. I think that spurred me on to try and understand values a lot more. I'll talk about that soon. So this piece, it would have been better if they were on a double page. This was in Italy from my own travels last year, and it was a square, and this area was obviously in heavy shadow. I think I could have done a better job, but maybe I'm being a bit hard on myself. This page is very special because this was my first Urban Sketchers meet in Trafalgar Square. Saturday the 12th, and I've got the Urban Sketchers stamp there. This lady had such a distinctive costume and face, and I talked to her later. She was adorable. The flags are red and white because it was the Canadian Embassy, and the trees were just turning a beautiful green gold colour. It was a glorious day. Hold on, I'm trying to turn the page. This was another view of Trafalgar Square. It's the fountains facing Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. This was in the afternoon, and some marchers were coming into Trafalgar Square. It got really loud. It's quite unfinished because it got a little bit too much for me. It was very crowded, so I wrote down 2:36. I left a little bit before the throwdown because I just got overwhelmed. These studies of people were done a few days later. Somebody who had been there took photographs, very lovely photographs, Zane, and she posted it to the Urban Sketchers Facebook group, and I just loved them, and I thought, well, I'm just going to use these with her permission. And she said, yeah, go for it. And it's been a long time since I've done sort of studies. I actually used to draw in Trafalgar Square after I graduated, and it was really interesting to do that again. More studies from Liz Steele's class. This must have been a little bit, maybe a week or two afterwards, after this, the first page that you saw. And I think I'm already improving. This is supposed to be a reflection. This is a castle in Scotland, and this is the reflection. And these are just studies. And I think as the sketchbook progresses, you can see where this is going to lead. Again, more studies of my hometown in Ware, Hertfordshire. This is along the canal. Just looking at the shape and also using the negative space, the white of the actual gazebo to make it stand out against the autumnal scenery. I think I overworked this particular gazebo, but yeah, it's quite a nice piece. Now this was pretty special. I've seen other urban sketchers create a ground. What you see here, I just slapped on some ink the night before. I think it's a little bit too bright in retrospect, but I just slapped it on, not really thinking about it. And then I went to a location, it's just down the road from me, and I just added the coloured pencil on top. This was done on location in about an hour, so which was pretty good for me. These were photos that I took during Kosher's trip to Nice. These are actually two different scenes, and I'm in retrospect maybe I wouldn't have added that, but I just loved, well, I think you can tell that I like to draw people, especially when unposed, let's say. This was exactly as it was in the photo, and these were two separate scenes, and I wish I hadn't put them together because it looks like they continue, so the perspective is really weird. But live and learn. I do like those cobbles. This is an unfinished piece. We were all sat down for sort of a snack and our first lesson. It's unfinished, it's a shame, but never mind. These were Skillshare teachers. It was a meetup at the Design Museum. That is Marie Noel, and that is Jenya. That's Catherine Jennifer, and these are Skillshare top teachers. We had a fantastic day. This was just sat in the cafe of the Design Museum. We had so much to talk about. It was a really fun event. Now, these are the beginnings of a really great journey that I'm on right now. This was Katie Moody's Patreon. This was the first session that I was able to join in with, and I had never done timed studies before. I think maybe this was 10 minutes and this was 15 minutes. Without even knowing it, I set myself a limited palette, and it worked out so well. And it was based on a theme, sort of a narrative, so sort of autumnal farmland. I just adored the entire Patreon call. I loved hearing other people chatting. I had a really tough time with animals. As you can see, I'm not the best with animals, but I still gave it a go. I think that's really important for you guys to see as well. And we finished the session with like a 25-minute or maybe 30 minutes for me by the time I faffed around and had highlights and things like that. This was another Patreon session with Katie Moody. I had never done these map crunch visuals. I'd never seen anything like this before, and I actually signed up because I saw other people doing this and I thought, oh, I want to join in, and it was so much fun. Again, quite a limited palette. Some of the perspective is out, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's a mixture of watercolor and colored pencil on top. This was also really interesting. Again, this was something that I had never done before, brand new to this, called Street View World Tour. Two artists organise it, called Jenny Adam and Eleanor Doughty, and they have a special guest artist who comes along and chooses various parts of the world, and this was a particular special places in Japan. We were working with a time limit as well. This was the first version that I did that evening on the actual Zoom session. You can see that there's a fairly good structure going on here, and there's a real immediacy about it, and I was a little bit disappointed. So the next day I produced this version, which has a little bit more detail and it's a bit lighter in feel, and I like both. If you want to let me know in the comments which one you prefer, I'd be really happy to hear. Visual, that was, I think it was an Emma Carlisle Patreon, can't remember, but, or was it Katie Moody? I really can't remember. I honestly had loads of fun. It was another timed study. I was able to fill in most of this really, really quickly and just add a little bit of pen detail on top, and I love the drama in the sky. This was a really great day. I spent with another artist who I realised had been at that Trafalgar Square meetup with Urban Sketchers. She's called Eleanor, and I didn't realise she lived in the next town along, so we met up and had coffee and we painted together, and it was really, really great. Then I discovered something called the Landscape Art Club. This is where 4 or 5 reference photos of the same place somewhere around the world, and you paint it. And I had been wanting to do this for ages, and I thought, right, I'm just going to do it. This was my first one. These were 2 separate versions, and I really enjoyed them. So loose and free. This was a Patreon session with Emma Carlisle, and she always has wonderful photos, references that we can use to just build up what interests us. I don't know why that's on the next page. Have I missed out a page? That's it. I did it in 2 sittings, that's why. So this was another reference from the same Patreon, and I think I captured the drama of the mountain in the background quite well, and I used a new tool and a new pencil, Stabilo. It almost acts like a wax resist. You can also see it in some of the sort of the snowy textures here. And I will say, I had learnt a lot more about contrast since the beginning of this sketchbook, so I feel like this piece was quite successful. Now, let's go back to these pieces. Okay, this was a day I spent in London. Just before Christmas, I met up with my friend Rebecca in Carnaby Street, and we had lunch together, and this was the bar area. And then I met up with another set of friends. We went to the William Kentridge exhibition at the Royal Academy, and this is from a photo that I took as we went in. I got membership so that I can get in a friend for free, so they were quite happy to go. Again, from photos that I had taken that day, I did these maybe the day after, and this is actually the same lady. I loved the scale. His William Kentridge images are huge, and again I just like drawing people, and very gestural, very quick and free. I just slapped on the colour and hoped they kind of matched up with the line. This was another Emma Carlisle reference images from her Patreon. I thought, I am going to stretch myself. It was actually my daughter that said, "Mummy, paint the polar bear." I could have just carried on with landscapes. And you should have seen, if I hold this up to the camera, you will be able to see how much white ink I just slapped on. I just kept going on and on and on because I just couldn't get this polar bear to look right, especially in the face area. But in the end, I thought, hold on, this is not a bad polar bear, considering I don't really paint polar bears. This landscape literally took 10 minutes. I was really pleased with that one. Again, this is another piece from the Landscape Art Club. Beautiful colours in these water lilies. Really enjoyed that one. This was actually a long weekend that I took with my daughter, just a little further up the road in the next county along, and it had actually snowed like that week. It never snows in our part of England, and we had a beautiful drive through this landscape, and this was actually the cottage where we stayed. It was built in the 15th century and really cosy inside. Another Landscape Art Club scene. Now this is I finished the sketchbook. This was actually the last page. I'm going to show you the next bit. Katie Moody, this was her last Patreon last year, and it was sort of winter around the world, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel like I need to show you the rest of it. I think I'm going to have to create a separate YouTube video about all the time studies that I've done in my sketchbooks recently, because I am learning so much. They are just, it's like the gift that keeps on giving, because I keep pursuing it. I'm just learning so much more about the way I like to create art. I just want to give you some context for where I was emotionally in November. I was pretty much burnt out. I felt like I had given so much to the book project, and I just needed something to lift my spirits, and my sketchbooks have always been such a balm. If you've seen my other YouTube video about when I went to Brooklyn, you know, I think that was the beginning that I gave myself permission to just explore. I never would have done anything like this before. I would have thought I'm wasting my time, and I really am not wasting my time at all. I'm being present. I feel like I have so much more awareness of contrast and shape, and especially how to control my watercolours even further. I've really been stepping out of my comfort zone, I feel, and especially let's move on to when I started joining all the Patreon, Emma and Katie's. It really has given my sketchbook practice such a boost, and I am so grateful. And also the room in my life right now, because I still feel like a sense of tiredness that I gave so much last year, and I'm just trying to refill my cup, and these are just like beautiful gifts that I'm giving to myself. Time in my sketchbook is never wasted. I learn from every single piece, and there are little nuances that has really upped my game. This page is pretty unfinished. The contrast in this, the line work in this is so fluid and it's so confident, and I don't think I could have done that 6 months ago. Absolutely not. And this shows a real level of confidence that certainly wasn't there a few months ago, and I am just thrilled with my own progress. I really hope you've enjoyed looking through these sketchbooks, and I hope there will be some more.